Okay, some really good thoughts on this I've got. The first one would be research the company well. Whatever company you're going for instance, if it's Cathay Pacific, you've got to research the company, its history, its staff, its aeroplanes, past, present and future, obviously where it's based, where it flies to, everything about the company. Spend days if not weeks on it because it'll pay off. Secondly, you've got to, and this is probably even more important than what I just said before, is to dress well and to speak well. There's no substitute for a good suit and a good tie. If you've got an old school tie, wear it. If you've got a club tie, wear it, but wear a tie. Dress well, speak well. Very important to speak well. Don't use slang, don't use idiomatic language, certainly don't curse or swear. Because believe me, people do that in interviews. So you've got to go in there and sell yourself, dress well and speak well. And speaking of selling yourself, you've got to be confident. You've got to go in there, even if you don't feel confident within yourself, you've got to appear to be confident to the people who are interviewing you. Very, very important. To a point. You don't want to be overconfident. Overconfident will put you on the downslide. So what level of confidence do you need? Again, it will depend on the people that are interviewing, it depends on the airline, it depends where they're from, and this is the research that you've got to do. Talk to people who have been in the interview with this particular company. If you can't find them, find people that have been to an interview recently in any airline and get feedback from them. But the idea is to pitch yourself at a certain level where you're confident but not overconfident, and to reiterate, dressing well, speaking well and research. And lastly, while you're doing all that and being confident and showing them what a good person you are, there's always one person on the panel that we've represented of human resources, HR. Now HR are usually not aviation people. If they are aviation people, you're a lucky person to be in an interview with an HR person who's aviation. Usually they're not. So what they want you to do is ask you questions about yourself, quite personal questions like, what are your best traits? What are your worst traits? How have these traits helped you in your career? How have they gone against you in your career? And it's very important to have these stories made up before you go in. There's nothing worse than staring at the ceiling and trying to think about stories while you're in the interview chair. So consider these stories beforehand. Consider what your best points and what your worst points are. I wouldn't suggest that you use your worst points, you use your best worst points. And already have a story ready for the HR person.